Hi guys, it's Talina Davison again, coming to you from India at Arunachala Hill. We will be having ceremony on the equinox on the 23rd out at Brahmanyani's property where he's going to be building his ashram. But in the meantime, I wanted to share with you guys my ideology on the energetic vibration of the spoken language as it pertains to the English language primarily, but really can be applied to any dialect anywhere. So earlier this year, if you followed this story at all, you're going to know that I went through a very rapid ascension process earlier this year. And during that time, I was getting a lot of downloads, and so many that I was channeling and writing with automatic writing. But there was times that I would record my downloads and for later use, and there'll be lots of those that I share with you all through this journey. But one of the ones that I'm going to share with you today is on just the topic I said, the energetic vibration of spoken language, and how to kind of like decode it a little bit and figure out what actually is important versus what's junk words that we throw in for meaning. So what I'm going to do is take you through the recording. I have it here on my little Bluetooth that I'm going to play out. I think it's going to be loud enough for you to hear. I hope so, of the recording. And then I'm going to pause it along the way and break it down a little bit on my thoughts on it, to share with you all a little bit further beyond the download itself, which is about 7 minutes long. So we'll be going through that process. So I'm just going to jump in, and when I pause it, I'll give you a little bit more of a breakdown. So here we go. Feeling the vibration of a word instead of the actual word, what people say. Because we throw in a bunch of junk words in human form to cover up whatever vibration our body is trying to emote. And so in order to move out of the emotional body and the mental body, it's necessary for you to feel what your body is responding to in the vibration of what someone is saying, in the words they're using. There may be only 3 or 4 words that pop out. It's like, whoa, those 3 words out of that one sentence are in the same vibration. Okay, so I'm going to pause there for a second and so discuss about the difference of when I say about the emotional body, the mental body, and the spirit body. We have our physical body, but then we have our light bodies also, our subtle bodies, which is where our emotions and our thoughts occur. They're actually out here in our bioenergy field. And many times we are stuck in our mind and the noise chatter in the head and not paying attention to the way the body is receiving communication from other people, or even our own communication that's happening in our head. So if you notice the vibration of a word, somebody is saying something to you, if you really are listening and attuned in with that person, there will be a few words of what they're saying that's going to hit a little bit different than all the other things they throw in to try to explain their perspective, or maybe embellish, or just in some way to try to help what they're trying to say. But a lot of it is unnecessary language. And this is how, when I started channeling, how it started happening was I would get this feeling that occurred in my body. It's the only way I can describe it. It was this massive sensation of the words that were important and necessary for me to hold on to, and those are the ones that I would write if I was channeling something while someone was speaking, like a client was speaking or something. It would be the words that I would write, and it would end up forming a new thought pattern because maybe 2 or 3 of those words were all that was relevant in what they were trying to say, and that was because of tuning into the energy that they were projecting with those particular words, the rhythm and cadence to the way they're speaking, will be different when it's the words that are emphasized that are the ones that really matter. So let's carry on a little bit and see what the next little bit here is.
Vibration.
Tune into. And so understanding, I'm starting to realize that when we operate from a spirit body, we have to lose human language because it is too low vibrational for us to get accurate interpretation of what spirit energy or source energy or our connection to universal energy is trying to tell us. If we are trying so hard to find the words to explain it, we have to slip down into a lower vibrational part of even our own being our emotional body, our mental body, in order to activate language to occur. But if we can stay in a spiritual body and we learn how to do that, then we understand the rhythm of language. And I understand now when I listen to myself, I have a rhythm to the way I speak. And okay, so when I was talking about the slipping down into a lower part of our body, so we have several layers of energy, of our energy in our subtle bodies, our light bodies. There's several layers of that, and many of us are stuck in emotion or stuck in the mental part where we're just thinking, the conscious thought, our thought processes, our belief systems, and things of this nature, and our day that we live on repeat happens here. And so by slipping back down into that, you're literally lowering your frequency, vibrational frequency. We talk about vibes, high vibes, low vibes. That's true, and most human language is spoken from the beta frequency, which is a low vibration frequency. It's not, it's like it's just a low vibration. And when you are in, let's say, delta or theta waves, you're operating from a higher brain frequency than you are when you are trying to use spoken language and use your thoughts or your emotions to communicate something to someone, rather than having a sense of equanimity about you as you're trying to communicate your perspective. There's a lot more observation that takes place during that time, and that's where, when you're in a spirit body and able to be connected to your spirit body, you have a clear pathway from your physical body all the way to your spirit body. So it's not that you bypass the emotion or that you bypass your mental thoughts. You're aware of those, but you don't stop there. You go on to the spirit level. You go on to the part where you are connected into a sense of vibrational energy and the rhythm, and noticing the patterns that someone's speaking and the cadence in which they speak. And then you start being able to, that's where people start saying that you're reading energy. If you're reading it accurately and not just from a place of your own lived experience, where sometimes ego can get in the way, and we'll apply that's where we're running it through our own filter, which can cause difficulty especially when we're speaking with someone that's a being of light, which autistic people are. And it's important that the messaging of this entire conversation that I'm having with you all today is truly to help better communication, our communication style with the autistic community, because they operate from a higher brain frequency all the time. Our spoken language and our beta level of communication creates distortion in the way in their understanding, because they know it's no longer in congruence with what your body's emoting, and they can sense that, they can see it, they can feel it, and that, like, their body, when it enters their body, because they listen more with their body than with their ears. By the time it reaches the ears, this is when we start creating the faulty neuroception in the autistic person. And this is why we start seeing the regression. This is my belief, my ideology and belief, is because this is when we start seeing the regression of our children around the age of 2 to 3. they may be autistic, but the fact that they start regressing in their abilities has a lot to do with the energy of the home system, the family system, because they are, or maybe if they're going to daycare, that too, because there's they're starting to get exposed to the energy of a family, and that's when they start recognizing, like I said, I've explained in another video, the power of 369 as it pertains to childhood development. So at the age of 3, around that age, 2 to 3 years old, they're starting to pick up on the energy, and so they're picking up on the incongruency in their family systems, in the school system, or in the daycare systems, and the society as a whole, and it's starting to create discombobulation, and so they just start shutting in, and this has to do with their body's thermatic energy. So like their Kelvin light bodies, the temperature of light starts changing, and maybe they act out and have meltdowns. I say act out, that's an inappropriate word. It's actually meltdowns because of the incongruency that's occurring on a pretty regular basis in their life. And so they go what we would call exothermic, high exothermic energy, is a way of trying to act out to keep their fire going, to keep that element that exists within all of us, the fire, the energy, to keep it lit and keep them from shutting down at a young age and going into what we call endothermic, which is the graying out of our light bodies. So it's really important for us to understand that if we could all connect through from our physical bodies up through our emotional bodies and mental bodies and connect with our spirit body, we would all be living in a much more congruent form of communication, and that requires less words and more connection and authenticity. So I'm going to pull this back up and start it back up.
I didn't know. It always bothered me, and I didn't like it. But
my
now
voice.
I understand. Oh, this is it. I get it. So now I have to understand the rhythm. This is how. It's all about rhythm. It's really not even about words. It's about rhythm. And then we can look at the rhythm and feel what that rhythm is trying to tell us in our body, and we can understand the communication from the spirit. So this is going to be important for beginners to understand how to switch between their mental body, where they think they're just in their head, and their physical body, and they think that they're nervous or whatever, and the emotions that they think they are having anxiety, or they think, because they are applying thinking. That's the problem. They're applying thinking. Stop thinking and start. So I'm learning.
So I just kind of lost my place on that because I'm learning how to do technology at the same time, and I had moved this over to a new phone, so excuse me for that. But what I'm talking about in there is spirit communication comes in through for a generator, someone, if you understand human design, and if you don't, I encourage you to look it up. But it hits me in my gut first. That's where I first notice it. It's like something hits me in my gut, and then I check my heart, where some people check their heart first, and then it comes to their gut. But for those of us that feel like we have a lot of anxiety and we don't know where it's coming from, it could be that you're actually receiving communication from spirit energy, and it feels like anxiety in your body when you receive this. And so what you need to do when you receive this type of, when you start feeling anxious and you don't really know the source of the anxiety, and don't seek for a place for it to make sense, because sure, we could all find a reason to find ourselves to be afraid or nervous about something, but perhaps you sit with that feeling and you ask the energy, what is it that you have for me? What are you trying to show me with this feeling of anxiety? And many times you'll feel a bubble up that comes up into your heart chakra. And this is another place that's like, how does my body feel now? Does this feel ominous still? Or is it more of a feeling of expansion? Am I understanding that there's something more that I needed to pay attention to, and if I just asked spirit or asked, God, whatever it is that you call and speak to your higher power about, but ask them to show you what it is that's creating this feeling in your body, because spirit enters a lot of us through our sacral area, through our belly area, so we'll get confused when that nervous system and our gut, the gut-brain connection, will instantly start going straight to our brain and thinking, well, this is why I'm anxious. This is, I'm worried about bills, or I'm worried about finances, or I'm worried about, my child or my marriage, or, whatever it is. We can find a million reasons to be nervous, but maybe it's not even that. And to know that, to have a checkpoint to say, does it make sense in my life to be having this feeling right now? Because it just hit out of nowhere. Many times it doesn't. And if you learn how to do that, take that pause and check it out, you may come up with a different answer. So I'm going to try to find this place I was just at on this recording, so bear with me.
Communication from spirit. So this is going to be important for beginners to understand how to switch between their uses, because again, we have many different versions of human language in communication, and every one of them carry a different vibrational frequency. English is not so great. So it's complicated and it's confusing, just like humans, because we make multiple double meanings on things. This is just like humans. Okay? Those that are amongst us that are being of lights,
Autists,
are very confused by the games and semantics that the human person plays and has learned to navigate the world by through spiritual trauma and faulty programming. And so this is why, if we can remove language and feel something, we can feel a connection. If you're in another country and you can feel if someone's upset, you may not speak the language, but you can know if someone is joyful. You can know if someone's upset. You can know if someone feels dangerous. It's a vibration. It's a form of communication. We just get so lazy. We're so lazy. We just rely on everything to be made so easy for us. We need to be present and understand how to connect and to translate this language, that the feeling, into human language, because we need to mediate between universal energy and all that is beyond what I personally know and what any of us personally know, but we all know little different things.
Okay, so what I'm talking about, again, is the confusion that we create for the autistic community, because they are beings of light, because they're free of ego. They're here to help us raise the frequency of the planet. And because we have, in English language, even we have, there, and there. I mean, think about all of the combinations of words. It's hard to learn the English language, and it's hard to understand the pathology that we have now developed as, a species, on how to communicate in passive aggressive ways. I've spoke about this in another message, also in another video, but it's very confusing to an authentic being of light who just wants directness, and so they require less words. It's more about, like, what's the exchange. And and I will say this, for your nonverbal children, you can hold the energy in your head without speaking a word, and like, you have to say that your child needs understanding. You can visualize calmly, just like, imagine handing your child the feeling of being understood, and just hold that space. And because of quantum entanglement, if you understand anything about quantum physics, energy exchanges, and your child will receive that you're trying to give them understanding. There's so much that we don't know yet, and so much that we still need to change the way that we're perceiving the form of communication that works best for the autist. And it's certainly not the way that we communicate, and it's not their responsibility to adapt to a pathological communication style. It's our responsibility to become healthy and clear and authentic in what we feel, what we think, and what we speak. And what I was saying about being in another country, wow, I did that in February and didn't know I was going to be starting in India, but lots of countries, but not knowing the language. I have been able to pick up on many of the conversations and what's happening. Shanti will be like, oh, you're understanding, I can't remember even the name of the language that they speak. But there's so many different languages that they speak here. There's Hindi and there's Malayalam. That's what she speaks primarily. Well, English is hers, but Malayalam. She's like, oh, you're understanding Malayalam. No, not really, but I can pick up on the vibration of what you all are speaking on, and then I know whether it's being talked about something with one of the children or something with husband or something with the mission. I'm able to join the conversation because of the energy that they're emoting. And so it's interesting that I recorded that and added that in earlier this year before I even knew that I would be going to several different countries on a mission, and reading energy and understanding what they're saying because of my ability to move past spoken language and to feel the vibration that the person is emoting from their body. So,
and it's also very important. We have to learn how to tap into that, and so we can communicate with each other without words, so that we can mediate and help heal. So vibration, the feeling of vibration, explaining that how we move from a sensation that feels like anxiety to understanding, wait, that's a physical sensation. Maybe that's not that. Maybe I'm plugged in to where I lead from, like my sacral as a generator. I lead from my sacral. I understand that feeling because the anxiety bubbles start in my belly, right in my sacral, right at my belly button. Maybe that's not for everyone, but that is how it is for me as a generator. And so now I understand, let that guide me. Then there's information for me, it'll rise up and it'll present itself. But otherwise, it's just that feeling, it's ignited in you. It's the vibration, just go with it. It will tell you. The feeling brings you into a feeling of ominous or a feeling of expansion. Just what's happening feel ominous, and it's going to make me feel like I'm resisting and walking up river and against the flow of life, or am I turned around and floating in the river of life with ease and expansion because I'm in alignment for what is the highest good and the thing that's going to get me returning to my Dharma. So I'm doing what I was committed to doing whenever I embodied in this lifetime. As I'm making this recording right now and speaking this, I have one hand on my heart chakra and one hand on my sacral. As I'm talking about this, like my heart rate starts racing and my sacral starts generating. We have to understand our bodies. Mental health speaks this through mind-body connection. Let's do some DBT work. Let's learn how to do mindfulness. Let's teach people to ground. Absolutely. But let's take it beyond that. Let's teach people how to understand what their body is trying to tell them.
Okay. Teaching you what your body's trying to tell you. And what I'm going to be going into next is talking about ADHD and how we're animated. And some people, we speak with our hands and things quite a bit. And, it's like being able to when you put your hand on your heart chakra and on your gut, it brings you back into that awareness of, I have 2 other stopping points before I go to just what my brain is generating through my conscious thinking, which has a bunch of filters based on my life's experiences and the roadmap in which was given to me as a child from my parents. And more than likely it's faulty. Most of ours are. I don't blame any parents. I think that, again, as I've said before, most of us are doing the best we can with what we know at any given moment. But this right here brings you back into awareness, which is a form of mindfulness. As I said in there, the DBT, we try to help people practice that groundedness and bringing you into the present moment. And when you come into the present moment, you get out of your head. And if you notice this, it's like then you question it. And so instead of it's like even somatic therapy is like we start questioning, what is this feeling that I'm experiencing, or what is this movement that I'm feeling like I need to do? You're observing the feelings rather than experiencing them to the same degree that you do when you are caught up in just the cycle of trauma. And a lot of it is trauma triggers or automation, where you just automatically do things without doing any self observation to see, what is this about? Why am I, where did this feeling come from? Is it relevant? Is it even mine? Am I picking up on someone's energy that's in this room? Or maybe I entered the store and it's full of a lot of negative energy. There's many other things it could be besides whatever you find a way to make it fit into your world, because that's what we'll do with it. But there's a lot that has to do with ADHD and body movement that I do want to play this out and help you guys understand that it's not as there's a lot more to it. Spirit uses our body to communicate, but most of us don't pay a damn bit of attention to what we're doing with our hands and our body. We just keep talking and doing this, and but there is a sense of every movement you make, and when you start understanding that it's code, this is the Spirit will move your hands and move your arms in certain ways that are repetitive across every single medium that I've ever worked with that is channeling and translating through from someone in spirit, or from an ascended master or a guide, or whatever we want to call them. Anytime they're getting spiritual communication, they're animated with their hands. And when they stop, they'll start noticing, my hand just did this, or my hand just did that. Well, when I learned the fundamentals of spiritual communication as it pertains to energy showing up in your body, where it shows up, what the hand movements mean, I just completely took off, because I had absolutely been doing all of this forever, not knowing that there was actual spiritual communication that was occurring behind it. So I want to play that out for you guys just a little bit.
Because we think we have ADHD and we're so animated and we've always been too much. Perhaps we are actually not understanding that Spirit is trying to communicate with us. And if we would stop and watch how energy is moving our body, there's a communication and a vibration and a coding to what is being said. This is something that we can help you understand in our programs, because it all means something. And we are here as light workers to be of service, and we have to understand the language of which the universe speaks in order to be leaders of light.
Okay. So that was a recording that I did back in February, early February, right before I really spun up into the ascension. But it was again, it started happening towards the end of last year. And after I came out of the big that I was in February and March, I was able to really start decoding myself, and my relationship with my autistic son improved drastically, because I learned how to communicate and understand the vibration of him and me, and I began to anticipate what it was that he was going to need or say, being able to communicate telepathically without words. I did the thing that I talked to you all about in this, being able to understand that he does know and understand more than most people think he does, because of his, what appears to be limiting abilities. But I could be sending him something energetically just through thought, and he would receive it, because then he would say something, or it would cause him to start calming down, or say he loves me, or whatever it was that I was sending him. Whatever energy that I was sending him, he reciprocated. And so I share this with you all, not in theory, but in theorem, because this is fact. I hope that you all receive this information and start some self-examination on your own. Those of us that are neurodivergent, examine yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. The neurodivergent person has a different type of wiring because we've been mishandled a lot in our life, and so everything misfired because the people in our lives taught us one way through trauma that we knew was not the authentic way of universe, and so we became discombobulated along the way. And it's not going to stay that way. The world's changing. It's changing at a rapid pace. Many of us, are very aware of that. Some of us are just living every day on repeat, and that's okay. We need those people too. No judgment against that. I, however, want to be in a place of constant growth and observation, so that hopefully I can help influence the world in a more positive way, to where we can all live in a more balanced, harmonious way. And the way to get there is through authenticity and self-examination, introspection. And so don't be afraid to sit with your shadow. Do so with self-love. Don't be afraid to self-examine, and don't feel like you're too much. So many of us that have ADHD have felt like we are too much, or those of us with dyslexia, which I have. I didn't know until just this year that that's what it was when I had the QEEG done, and it makes sense on why the word that, oh my gosh, the words here are so long. It's too much for me to pronounce. I don't know. I can't say it, and it's like, so those of you who suffer from that, like I do, it's not really suffering, but where you felt like something was defective in you, don't feel that way. Words are confusing. There's too many letters. Let's just go with a feeling, because it works too, Those of you that are animated, be animated. Live out loud. Find your uniqueness and stop being ashamed of it. The world takes a bunch of different types of people, and the dark's always going to exist, but I believe we're well on our way of tipping the balance into light, and that's through authenticity. So if you listened to the end, thank you so much. I have more to come, but I needed to get another video out on, and I want to give a big, huge praise to my autistic community. Those of you that follow me, are the parents that follow me. Stay tuned in. I have much to say. They are a huge part of this mission. It will become more evident in 2027. But do your own healing, parents. Do your own healing, because the more you heal, the more your children heal, because you are literally a foundation for them. Your healing by quantum entanglement will reach your child, and they will become better. So do your work, because your children need you to. Our children needs us to. It's like better late than never. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late to set your life's path on a course correction, so that healing can occur and you can be the change agent that I know we all want to be in our family systems. So good night. I will talk to you all again soon. Stay tuned in. We will have equinox ceremony Saturday the 23rd, and Ramanyani will be participating with us. So stay tuned, guys. Take care. Bye.